How much do you love your dog? A lot, right? So you definitely want the best for their health, and there's no doubt about that. But did you know that the cause of many dogs' health issues is their food? That is why actress Katherine Heigl, who's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her foundation, created something she could actually feel good about feeding her dogs. It's called Superfood Complete. It's made with over 30 of the healthiest ingredients on the planet, including several superfoods vital to your dog's health. I actually love giving Mojo this as a topper. He's extra enthusiastic about mealtime these days. And I feel good that there are no fillers and it's air dried, so it retains more nutrients. Dogs across America are trying this food and experiencing amazing health benefits. And so can your fur baby. Go to badlandsranch.com/dateable and order right now to get up to 50% off your regular price order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. If you want your dog to experience all these incredible things, go to badlandsranch.com/dateable today. Is anyone else struggling with what to wear these days? I feel like styles change faster than dating trends, and I certainly don't want to be buying new clothes all the time just to keep up. So enter Armoire. Armoire allows you to rent high-quality designer clothing for every occasion. And when I signed up, I took a style quiz, and based on my preferences, they offer suggestions that would best match my lifestyle. The more I rent, the more on point the suggestions get. I recently rented this gorgeous Tanya Taylor silk dress for date night and got so many compliments. I wouldn't normally have chosen this style, but with Armoire, you can take chances because if you don't like it, you just swap it out. Right now, our listeners can give Armoire a try and get up to 50% off their first month. That's up to $125 off. Just visit armoire.style/dateable. That is armoire.style, spelled ARMOIRE.style/DATEABLE to get up to 50% off your first month and never worry about what to wear again. Try Armoire today. And if you forget the link, just head to our Instagram and find it under special offers. Hello. Yue here for a little quickie with me. Thanks for joining me. If you haven't listened to our episode with Mark Groves, I would recommend that you listen to that first before you hop in on this quickie with me, simply because I think I just had so many thoughts after talking to him. Much of what he said really resonated with me because it's what I've been trying to process for so long, especially in the realm of relationships and the complexities of staying in relationships, of knowing when to go and when to stay, when to try harder and when to know that you tried enough. I grapple with this quite a bit because conventional wisdom says you should fight for your relationship. If you truly love someone, you should try everything you can. But this is why relationships are so complex. Just because you love someone and have a history with someone, I also believe that sometimes relationships run its course. And then it gets to this tipping point of when it starts being toxic or detrimental, or when you get to a point where Mark Groves says, when you start losing yourself. So one thought that I was really gravitated towards was this idea of taking an intentional break in a relationship. And, he and his wife, Kylie, they were together for 5 years, living together, going through the motions of a relationship, but he constantly felt like she was turned away from him. Those were his words. Like, I felt turned towards her and she always felt like her shoulders were turned away from me. And they ultimately decided to break up. Now, the plot twist is they did get back together and now they're married with a kid, but it's a brand new relationship. And in my mind, I feel like that is how sometimes the story goes, but we don't talk about it. We don't normalize this idea of what I'm going to call a relationship sabbatical. And I've had a lot of friends, and many of them have been on Dateable, who've talked about their successful relationships, their healthy marriages. But the part they tend to skip is the relationship sabbatical many of them have taken. And I hope to get one of them back on our show to talk about how she actually took some time off from her husband shortly after they got married. And I think the reason why we don't normalize relationship sabbaticals is because it feels messy. It feels like, well, if you truly want to make it work, why not just work inside the container of the relationship? But I would argue sometimes the processing needs to happen while you're not in it. And I tend to think about my last relationship, the 5-year one. And regardless of what happened in the end, I still think there were moments in that relationship that if I were to do it again, I would have taken an intentional break. And here are the reasons why I think some relationships do need a sabbatical, a break. Is when you feel like you keep hitting a wall. Like you keep revisiting the same issues. And no matter what you do, you feel like you've tried everything: therapy, counseling, couples retreats, intentional check-ins. Like you've used up all of your resources and tools, yet you still revisit the same issues. And when two people feel exhausted, depleted, that's also a sign to take an intentional break. And you still have love for each other. I think that's the most important part. It's that you want to be in a place where you want to keep the love, keep the desire to make it work without creating this contentious environment, without resenting each other. And that, I think, in my last relationship was when it started getting really toxic, was the resentment building. People take sabbaticals from work all the time. I don't think people hate their jobs when they're doing a sabbatical. It's just they feel like they need an intentional removal from that environment. And in that interview we had with Mark Groves, I gave this analogy of an escalator, equating it to a relationship. I still very much, resonate with that image because I do think when we get into relationships, we step on the escalator and we go through the motions of a relationship. We keep moving along the escalator. And there are points during this journey that you may need to just pause. This escalator can't move anymore, or step off the escalator. And that's okay. The reason why I think sometimes breakups are so hard, or even a sabbatical like this that I'm talking about is so hard, is because you've already built up all of these relationship things. Like maybe you've already lived together, you've already met friends, you've already really merged your lives, you've already told each other your deepest, darkest secrets. It's hard to step away from that, to give that up. But that's why I think the intentional stepping away from the escalator for a moment could salvage a relationship, so that you're not, 10 years in and then thinking, now I really resent this person because we never resolved these issues that we keep banging our heads on. But I think with a sabbatical, there are some rules that need to be had. Like with Kylie and Mark, they had a no contact rule. I think that's so important because, you can't process this and still think you have the safety net of this partner who's in your life. You have to do this alone. And the no contact rule definitely, gets to that point. I also think it needs to be treated like a breakup. I know that sounds so harsh, and I thought about this in my last relationship, was maybe we just need to break up and understand, really find ourselves right now. And it was so hard because, I kept thinking, oh, we live together and I've already met his parents. He's met my parents. Our friends are so enmeshed and we have our daily routine. We can't break up now, especially if we are trying so hard and we have this relationship. But I realize those aren't good enough reasons to stay in a relationship if you feel like you're losing yourself, or you feel like you're gone a different direction, that maybe you need to just recalibrate, right? Maybe the recalibration needs to happen independently. If the sabbatical does have a time frame, just like a sabbatical from work, 3 months, 1 month, there needs to be conditions of when you come back together. I think the conditions should be around specific asks. So maybe it's the issues that you keep revisiting over and over again. There are possibly different assignments for each party to take away to work on. So when you do come back together, you can discuss what you've been working on. And maybe the conditions are you're waiting for an answer from your partner, or you're waiting for something, something to happen from your partner, so that when you come back together, maybe the condition is that ask is already fulfilled. I also think it's so important what Mark and Kylie did was that when they did come back together, they started a brand new relationship. And that is it goes in line with, my idea of like the 6-month relationship, taking a relationship 6 months at a time. And then at the end, you decide to renew or cancel. I think this is like, we just don't talk about this enough, but relationships change. And part of why it's so hard to break up or to, end a relationship is that sometimes we like hold on to the beginning of the relationship, how it used to be. But we have to be realistic that things will never be how it used to be. We are on this escalator now. It is moving, and we have to accept the evolution of our relationships. But we can be intentional about what that next phase looks like. And also just say out loud, this is the next phase of our relationship. And we need to really understand that and to accept that. These are just some of my thoughts about a relationship sabbatical, what I would have done differently in my last relationship, but also knowing that for my future, I want to be, this is just a personal goal for mine, I want to be less scared about taking an intentional break and really embrace processing independently from my partner, understanding what life could be like without my partner, and then coming back with goals, with intentions, with conditions, with asks, with needs. And I think that would give me a jolt into what it is that I actually want in that relationship. How do I want to operate in that relationship? How I would design my ideal relationship. And maybe it doesn't have to be as dramatic or drastic as a relationship sabbatical. But I'm just saying this because I think we can normalize it. We can maybe just say, we're just in this relationship sabbatical stage and there are no judgments, no stigma attached to it. We accept it as part of a relationship. That's okay. All right, just some thoughts. I love to hear what you all think. Have you taken a relationship sabbatical without even knowing it? What did it do for you? And I also want to hear, have you thought about, how taking a relationship sabbatical and your fears with it? Because I totally understand. It's a very scary thing. But yeah, just let me know your thoughts. Very curious. And again, if you haven't listened to the Mark Groves episode, please go back and listen. It's very provocative. I'll leave you with that. It's very provocative. Okay, that's it for me. See y'all soon.
Before you leave this episode, just a reminder to head over to dateablepodcast.com/programs if you want to get in on our Meeting People IRL Masterclass and see what else we have in store.